So let's talk about the anatomy of the upright bass. Starting from the very top of the instrument, this is called the scroll. Pretty self-explanatory. This little swirly guy is basically decoration, but adds a little bit to the structural integrity of the instrument. Below that you have the tuners, tuning pegs, however you want to call them. These allow you to tune up your strings individually. Within there's some other mechanisms that you don't really need to get into. Holding the strings in place, this is called the nut. That's at the top of what's called the fingerboard, and this goes all the way down pretty much to where you're going to be playing with your fingers or your bow. And the whole thing over here, this is called the neck of the bass. The rest of the wood, the acoustic chamber essentially, this is called the body of the bass. These are the F holes. They are basically the sound holes that you'll hear the vibration of the instrument coming out of the bass. But because of the nature of the size, most of the vibration is just going to come from the resonance of the instrument itself and not directly from these sound holes. So we have 4 strings on the upright bass. From the lowest to the highest, we have E, A, D, and then the highest is G. And then supporting the strings and keeping the action in place, or how high the strings are above the fingerboard, is the bridge. So this is the bridge, piece of wood centered right on the middle. And inside of the bass, you won't be able to see this, but there's a sound post that keeps the top of the bass from sinking in and helps the wood vibrate. So the bridge and the sound post are related to each other. The next part of the bridge itself is the wheels of the bridge, and that allows you to make your strings higher or lower depending on your style of music, how hard you want to work to get a sound out of the strings. And next piece is the tailpiece. And this is basically what holds the strings in place at the very bottom of the instrument. This creates all the tension. If you look behind there, you can see essentially the balls or the tips of the strings holding in place behind the tailpiece. And this goes all the way down to the bottom of the bass, where you have the end pin, and that goes inside of the bass. Essentially, that's the entire anatomy. Beyond that are little details that you might not need to know unless you're building a bass. So in terms of your bow, there's just a few parts to get to know. It's pretty simple. The main part of your bow, easy enough to know, is the stick. The end of the bow, easy enough, also is called the tip. So you have the tip, the stick. Over here, here's your little thumb rest. This is where you can place your thumb and, I guess, the pointer finger when you're setting up your bow technique. It's a little rubber spot that makes it a little more comfortable and creates some grip. This is the frog of the bow. That gives you the support and weight that you need to create a good sound. As you can see, my thumb goes right there and it just kind of rests there. And depending on the way you use your technique, your thumb can rest here, here, basically in this area. And then the last part, to tighten up your hair, which is made out of horsehair generally, and there can be a couple different kinds, blonde or black or brown, different kinds. Related to the hair is your tightener, and you just tighten that up and make sure that you got enough tension in your hair, and that's the entire anatomy of the bow that you need to know about.